I just finished a block of editing thumbnails, making thumbnails, and through my 5 hour block, I realized something very important. It's so important that I felt compelled to make a video. If you don't know who I am, I actually run my own agency, or I'm working with a company that has naturally grown into an agency, and I'm the marketing lead, and we have about 5 to 6, soon to be 7, maybe even 8 projects. And when I say projects, you can imagine them as their own kind of profiles or clients, as if you will. And so I'm the marketing lead for it. And transparently, I came from the video editing background to now I'm the marketing lead. And so everything I'm kind of going to be sharing here about this lesson I've learned is very compelling, because from even making websites to video editing that have amassed over millions and millions and millions of views, to even getting a thumbnail recently that's done 13.5%, which is absolutely incredible when I look out in the landscape and see other people having duds with their thumbnails, not really doing good with the packaging. I never claimed to be an expert at this, but it's interesting. With my time, I've learned some things that are really cool and that I kind of want to share. And so this is one of the tips I've kind of learned that I want to really break down. So I already touched a point on who I am. I kind of run my own agency, did all of that. Cool. Just got a couple notes here, just really off the cuff. I really like natural videos. I don't really like scripted as we move more into AI, because it feels very forced, and I'm not really about that right now. So don't mind me if I'm looking down, just to kind of make sure I'm touching base on the points I want. So the main point I wrote down when I was working on these thumbnails, when I was about halfway through, is I struggled to hit kind of like a roadblock. And it made me think, after coming out of this 5 hour session, because I haven't ate, and so I'm like putting a pizza in the oven and everything, just waiting for that. It kind of came across my mind that there's something to be said about initial inspiration on the one side when you first get into something, versus continual information. Whoa, that's cool. Kind of rhymes, right? But yeah, there's something to be said about it. And now you might be wondering, what do I mean by this? What exactly am I going about with this? Why am I like kind of saying, what is the separation for this? Well, initial inspiration is something where I kind of just came up with, where when you go into your project as a creative, you kind of have this idea in your mind about maybe where you want to take a thumbnail, maybe how you want to edit a video, maybe how you want to write a page or create a funnel. And you get into it, and maybe it's good, or maybe it's not. Now, in marketing, there's something to be said about A/B testing and trying to generate as much kind of creatives and as much kind of different angles and different ways to do it, so you can A/B test consistently and see what works. That's a great thing to do. But when you have initial inspiration, you're going to really run out quite quickly, especially if you are not really proficient at that skill. For example, I came from video editing. I wasn't really very solid at thumbnails. So for me, jumping into thumbnails a couple months ago, when I first started, like doing it consistently every week, it was hard. It was hard to come up with ideas and really know what to jump off with. Now, as I become more proficient and competent in making thumbnails, it's become easier. But then now we look at the other side, continual information. What do I mean by this? What is the separation between initial inspiration versus continual information? Well, when you hit that roadblock, when you hit that you kind of you've gone through all the ideas you can think of initially, that's when it gets hard. And for me, I found that, okay, either I could take a break, which kind of helps, but even then when I come back, I'm like, okay, this is not really, I can't really think of anything additional. Maybe I can write down a couple of stuff. But I find myself always going back to looking at inspiration, looking at continual information per se. And what do I mean by this? Well, let me quickly switch over to this, and let me go to my swipe file. And this is continual information, where I'll look at my swipe file or my swap file, and I'll look at it and I'll get inspiration. And I'll just go look at this. I'm like, I have my intention to try to get ideas. And I'll just look at it and see what kind of sticks out to me. I'll go through it. I'll go through all these outliers that just work. and I'll just take in continual information. And it's interesting because if you want to view it as like the copywriting idea, where someone has like a problem and then they try to find a solution, a desire, and your mechanism is a solution, it's kind of the same thing. Where it's like when you have your initial ideas and you run out of them and you're just hitting your head against a wall about new ideas and you're just not liking the ideas you put out, that's when you go to your swipe file or swap file. And so you go from your struggle or your roadblock, and then you go to your, you go to and think, okay, what has others done? I need inspiration. I need to start looking at others people and take inspiration from them. And so that's where you go into implementing and into actually looking at this, and that's your solution. So I don't know if really that made sense, but it means maybe if I wrote it down and to me it made sense. But it's a case where this is actually how I've grown the fastest was learning any skill. Interestingly enough, people talk about action, but if you can model off of others who are ahead of you, that's amazing. And that's the whole point of it, is that you want to model off of others. But people get the idea of like when you model off the beginning, when you look at the beginning, you get inspiration, but then they don't continually give themselves more information to kind of to chew on and kind of work with as in the process once they hit a roadblock. Because that's probably the case. Is when you hit the roadblock, it's probably because you haven't been spending enough time working out in your head and maybe not feeding yourself enough information to really continue to work with, to kind of take in different angles and have multiple data points to fuel different angles you can work with. So that's where the initial inspiration versus continual information kind of comes in, is exactly this. So you just kind of go through this and just get inspiration for all this stuff. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but to me, it did. It was interesting that when I looked back at even making web pages, um, and just understanding specific content, specific styles, I found that I progressed a lot faster when I had looked at my other competitors and started implementing their skills into what I'm doing as inspiration while I'm in the midst of it. I think there's the idea that yes, you copy and you look at stuff before, but I don't, maybe it's for me, but I found that for me specifically, I gotta get this like belief like, oh, I should know what to do off the bat and I should continue with it because that's just a mindset grindset, if you will, that you should have. And you should have your ideas, you copy stuff beforehand, but when you're in the midst of process, it just never really crossed my mind in terms of continuing to look at that information and feed yourself new information with these thumbnails to kind of inform your decisions and kind of give you some new perspectives that you can do. Something that is kind of just like a aha moment for me that maybe might resonate with you. So I'll kind of leave it there. I would challenge you to start thinking about the initial inspiration versus continual information. It's helped me, and maybe it'll help you. Thanks for your time, and I hope to see you in another video.